Okay, I guess we can get started. Good evening, and welcome to the January 17th meeting of the Wastewater and Water Commission. I'll call the meeting to order. Oh, I got to bang the gavel again. Please be advised that FATV is conducting an audio and visual recording of this meeting for public broadcast. I ask that anyone else in the audience who is recording this meeting to please identify themselves for the record now by standing, stating your name and city of residence, and we don't have any guests. At this time, I ask that all electronic devices be placed in silent mode. And I believe we're supposed to do a roll call, so I'll do a roll call. Nick Erickson. Present. George Cena. Here. Colby O'Brien. Here. Mike McLaughlin. Here. John and, are they on this roll call also? John DeLine and...
I think just the members.
Yeah, it's just the members, I think.
Oh, just the members, okay. And... let's see. There's no one to speak here. Oh, and I'm Rick Haley, present. So we don't have any public forum, and we'll call the meeting to order. And John, you're up, Water Division.
Sure. Never met for a little while, so I have a few things to update you on, and also a loan to talk about. But the first thing on the list is the skater upgrade project. We've hit a glitch with it. We ordered all the new equipment, and we paid for, we got the Cadillac of, the processors and things like that, and come to find out the company that supplies them had a group of them within certain manufacturer dates that there's issues with, and we've had to send them back. We have some of them, but we've had to send back them to be remanufactured. So kind of noticed there was some issues with things not running when we tried to start up Falula, with things not running correctly, and just some glitches with those type of things. And come to find out, once we contact the manufacturer, our processors are all within the date range of the ones with issues. So we've been kind of working through that. We've got some other ones that the company supplied, the contractor supplied. Some backup ones. We haven't started the plant yet. We will tomorrow, the Falula plant. But the regional plant, we will have to start. We're not going to do anything more up there until we get them all back from Alan Bradley, so that we can just make sure everything's done properly at that point. So it's been a bit of a headache because we were trying to trace down the problems, what was going on with some of the the controls and stuff for the chemical feeds and things like that, as we were trying to get through Falula, and come to find out that was it. There's like 17 altogether. I think there's like 3 or 4 spares, but they all have to go back. They're all within the date range, unfortunately. So project could delay a little bit more. So not sure if there's any recourse. We've been talking to the contractors about it, and they are consultants. So we'll see where that goes with that. So that's where we're at with that. So we think we kind of like.
Question.
Thank you. Did you say PLCs?
Yeah, some of that stuff, yeah.
Are we incurring any additional costs because of the change out, or is the
it's just
dollar covering it under warranty?
Yeah, it's just a delay finishing the project. We're going to sign some extensions, but there are no cost extensions.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's just kind of like...
So an inconvenience, but not an added cost?
No. So, but it's still an impact because we want to get the project done. So, we're hoping. They had asked, the manufacturer had asked us to send them back in like groups of 3 or 5. Well, that isn't going to cut it. We need like 13 back, So we just sent the contractor sent the bunch back all at once, and just when they come back, that way we'll have all those set for the regional plant to start, and then we'll send the rest back. But yeah, it's a little disappointing because we were really on a roll, and a lot of stuff was done, and then we started hitting these roadblocks in November with these glitches, and that's about the time that the manufacturer came out that within these date range, and once we checked everything, every one that we have is within that date range. So we were delayed, because of chip shortages and things like that, and then we finally get what we need, and it had issues. So that's where we are at with that. The good thing is we got all the stations done. Everything was done on those stations. It didn't affect everything that. So we got off all the Verizon copper lines, which was a huge headache as far as reliability. They're all through cellular modems now. Alarms, heat, everything that. We also had a private alarm company that was monitored those as part of that system. That's all gone. Everything is through the SCADA system. So all the stations are done. The La Cava pump station, that has all new VFDs and things like that in there. So we're real happy that all that's done. So the last piece will be, swapping out the cards in Falula, and then we're getting everything set at regional. So, and a lot of the work that they did at Falula with programming and like state reports, you have to understand that every little drop of water that goes through that plant is monitored by that system, and then it's put into reports that we send to the state. I mean, there's no falsifying or anything like that. They want every drop monitored, the chlorine residual, the turbidity, everything has got to go through there and monitored by the system. We also do lab tests just to corroborate what we're getting on the instruments. So, but all that work is done with the reporting and things like that. And we're glad to get off the Verizon copper lines because first off, they didn't want us on them, but secondly, they were completely unreliable as far as rain. So hopefully the cellular ones end up being more reliable. So, so that's a plus. But like I said, there's going to be a gap here. We'll be able to work out any remaining glitches we have, that show up as they run the plant, and then hopefully the regional will go real smooth with, with everything that's been done to date. So, and we're anticipating something like March or April, so to finish that. All right. Any other questions on that, or? I've talked about it a few times before, the regional water plant, the NIPD's permit. We also have one for Falula, but it's only an emergency plant discharge for that plant, because all the backwash does go to Mark's wastewater treatment plant. Thank you. But at regional, it gets discharged to the environment through a stream and then down to Wyman's Pond. So we have to meet new aluminum discharge standards, and we use PAC polyaluminum chloride for part of the treatment process. So we have to, they sent the permit to us, and it was effective January 1st of this year. We have 2 years to meet the stricter discharge limits. So we're looking at asking for some more time, another 6 months to a year, but we'll see what happens. We have to do quite a bit of work to get to that point. We're looking at alternative treatment, changing some things at the regional plant to get away from using PAC. And so there's no aluminum in the discharge, but it's easier said than done because each, source water is a bit different. Lemons is a little bit different than ours, and so. But that's what we're looking at right now. But like I said, we do have our marching orders from them. I mean, this has been going on for years, and I really wish they, it's been going on for 5-7 years. They've been telling us they're going to be sending a permit, and then they give us 2 years, and it's not an easy thing to do because now we know what the discharge limits are. Now we got to, design something or change treatment to meet that. And if we have to construct something, it's not easy to get everything done. We got the next year to basically figure out what we're going to do to meet it, but then we only got another year to construct everything. Well, that's not it sounds like a long time, but it isn't in the construction world. I mean, there's a lot of design and things like that going out to bid and all that to meet that. So, so we'll be working with our consultants to get those things figured out the next couple months, and hopefully have a plan together by the end of this year and work on the design by that time. So we have some other, I've talked about the regional treatment plants, 20-something years old. The Falula plant actually just hit 20 years. We'll hit 20 years this fall. So the regional plant's a few years older. And it's getting old. I mean, we've kept it up as well as possible, but, some things with the filters and clarifiers, things wear out. So we're looking at some improvements there, which were in the capital improvement plan. So we're looking at, is there anything that we could do as part of that treatment process to get away from the polyaluminum chloride? I mean, there's a lot of working parts to figure this out. So, and hopefully with our consultants, we'll be able to do that and figure out the cheapest way of doing it, but also meeting all the discharge limits and providing the cleanest water possible. So we did see our last quarterly sampling for PFAS up there. It had been running 2, 3, 4 parts per trillion, something like that. I mean, it's pretty much in every water source in Massachusetts. I mean, it falls in almost every raindrop from the sky. It's throughout the world, but we did see it increase up to about 6 parts per trillion Still well below the DEP limits of 20, and the EPA limits are 70, but EPA is looking at reducing it down to 4. So we were borderline before, but we may be over. So we've got to figure that into whatever we do for treatment too, if we have to start treating for that, if EPA's limits are reduced to that amount. So just like I said, there's an awful lot of work in parts just to figure this out and try to, like I said, meet the discharge limits, treat the water as best as possible, and, integrate any, improvements we do at the facility at the same time. So, they really can't be looked at separately.
Question. Thanks. Our PFAS levels, you said, are at about 6?
6 parts per trillion, yes.
And you said 20 is
Mass
acceptable. So
DEP's
we're well
limit.
below it.
Yes.
Just out of curiosity, how do we compare to other communities? I mean, you must have done some.
Yeah, I'd say we're at the low end.
Good.
I'm sure there's some that don't have any, but there's some that have large, high quantities.
Yeah.
There's just a whole range of them. So, but I'd say we're probably in the lower 30%. But there's ones that have less than us too. So,
Yeah.
But there's other ones that are already over the 20 parts, and there's other ones that are even higher. So they've had to institute treatment. It's not an easy thing to do. I forgot the city or town that just did it. They instituted, just got finished treatment, $15 million addition to their treatment plant just to treat for PFAS. And it's not, it's working, but it's hard to achieve the levels that they want, basically zero. And there's a lot of additional maintenance to it too, whether you use activated carbon or some type of resin bed. I mean, those things need to, they don't have they have a lifespan, and then they need to replace, and then those things need to be conditioned so that they treat again, so there's a lot to it. So
What filter medium removes it?
activated carbon will, but it does have breakthrough. They're using that in like all the systems up in Westminster that are on the wells in that contaminated area. So, and it seems to be effective on a small scale. On a larger scale, it's effective as well, but then that activated carbon gets spent. You have to take that away as hazardous waste. You have to bring new activated carbon into that bed. You're still going to be treating water. You can't just like shut down the plant and then for days, not make water. So you're going to have a couple of different beds that are alternate, ways of treating the water. And then it's got to be conditioned once that new activated carbon's put back in. The bed's got to be conditioned and, so it actually, achieves the treatment that's needed. So, we don't have anything like that where we have to replace filter media right now. I mean, we have to do it every 10, 12 years, which we're at now because we've already done it once. So that would create a whole new level of maintenance and cost because of that. So, and we don't know, I mean, the source, who knows? I mean, 6 parts per trillion is just a small amount. I mean, they see that in pristine streams out in Western Mass. I mean, where it came from or how it's there, I mean, we can, and none of our watershed is anywhere near that area in Westminster. Just, I want to make that, clear. That has no effect on us. That's way beyond where our watershed is. So it's nothing from there that would do it. So, unfortunately, we do have, a lot of our watershed is served by septic systems and not public sewer. So even individual houses, with their septic systems can be a source of PFAS in the water because the clothing you wear, whether it's flame retardant treatment, stain resistant treatment or Gore-Tex, they all have PFAS in it. So people wash, do their washing and PFAS goes through there. Well, a private septic system doesn't treat for that. And I don't think even wastewater plant really treats for it, kind of goes through, So, so just a little bit over, 100 years from all these septic systems that are in the watershed, they do achieve a treatment in terms of bacteria and things like that, which is good for, for most things. But when it comes to these new chemicals, and they don't degrade, they just stay there forever, So the only way to do it is to get rid of them is to capture them, prevent them from going in, and then destroy them through incineration or something like that, which of course you can't do in the water, So.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's complicated. I mean, it's worrisome to me that, what we're going to have to do to try to deal with it and stuff. And I had hoped we'd stay below, the 2-3 parts per trillion where we were. But, like I said, we came up, and I don't know if it's from all the rain last year. We didn't have to pump as much from our reservoir. We're going to look at some more things there. Whether the other reservoir doesn't have as much and it's diluting it. I mean, or just all the rain, I mean, it's found in the Arctic, Antarctic, and ice. I mean, it's found all over the world, so who knows? Yeah, so that's something we got to figure out, at the same time, we're figuring out how to, make improvements at the treatment plant. We know we need to do the filters and clarifiers over, which we have programmed into our capital improvement plan, but we also got to figure out, our discharge too, so, and figure out what we'll do as far as PFAS treatment if we have to do that. It's another thing that was thrown in the last couple of years, so. And it's a big unknown for a lot of places because if we were extremely high, we'd be forced to do it right now, but we're not. Some places are. So the fortunate aspect is that, and hopefully there's a learning curve that we gain benefit from what works in other communities and doesn't work. So, Any other questions on that, or?
Thank you.
So we're using ARPA money to do the Boulder water main and the Main Street water mains. The Boulder Drive water main project is all designed. It's actually out to bid. We have a pre-bid conference next week, pre-construction conference, pre-bid conference. And then 2 weeks later, we have the bid opening for that. So that'll be basically the first phase. So there'll be a new water main in Boulder Drive, and all the side streets that go over to Main Street will be done as part of that project. And that's going to facilitate doing the Main Street project afterwards. The Main Street project that side of it is being designed now, and we anticipate going out to bid, late spring, early summer for that. Probably not much will be done this year, but most of it will be done the following year, and that's the biggest part of it. We had looked at trying to do it together, but it's such a huge project, and what really needs to be done, and you really can't do them both at the same time because we're going to be disruptive to traffic and that. We want to get Boulder Drive and everything done over to Main Street on all the side streets, and that will allow us to do, to basically stage or do Main Street in steps by having those new connections, rather than a 4-inch line going through whatever street down here. We'll have a new 8-inch and new hydrants and everything to connect up temporary water. So, and it will take, easily this whole construction season to do the Boulder Drive project. So hopefully we get some pretty good bids on that. And like I said, we'll be going out to, it'll give us an idea what the costs are in today's environment. Then we'll be going out to do with the Main Street project. And we're trying to address any issue you can imagine on Main Street, whether it's fire protection to buildings. We're sending out, we sent out surveys to building owners. We're going into the buildings. And, if somebody that doesn't have a fire protection line that may need one, that we're asking them to tell us, what their plans are. So we're trying to cover all bases as far as that's concerned, because we want to make sure that when the water main's done on Main Street, the water's done. Not just the water main, but everything going out to the thing. We'll renew all the services, get everything out of there. So when the Main Street ever does get completely done, we will, hopefully not have any impacts, and that infrastructure will be all set. So yeah, that'll be the project for this coming construction season is Boulder Drive. So there's just the amount of old piping down there. I mean, that's the original part of the city. Some of the things down there, the slaughterhouses were down there, just the pipes that they just ran everywhere. It's just the stuff that we find sometimes where we just scratch our heads like, where did this go to? There was something there at some point. So it's definitely a puzzle, but I think we've got a good handle on it. But I'm sure we're going to find plenty that's like, well, what's this for? You can't imagine how much old piping is down, especially the lower end of Boulder Drive. That's just, it's not usable, or it's shut off and it's just there connected someplace, and just going through with a new main, we'll be able to disconnect that, connect the buildings that are there, and some of it will be abandoned, of course, but so it should be a good project to get done. So, and once done, it should be done for 100+ years, I hope. So and that would involve any properties down there too. Not just a building, but if somebody has a property down there they want to connect something into, it's like we want to make sure that they, that's addressed at the same time. So, like I said, we're trying to make sure that this is a whole project, an absolutely whole project. We don't miss any pieces of it. So, all right. So hopefully at the next meeting, might have the bid. You might have the prices then.
Yeah, I think the bid opening is next month in February, so
I think we
should have
the
it prior to
pricing
then.
then for then. So that'll be good. And the last item I have on my list is a $4.4 million loan for a project. Now, this was included in the rate study. all programmed into there for this fiscal year 24, that we would borrow the money this fiscal year and go out to bid for this project. The design is complete, and basically it's ready to go out to bid, which we anticipate doing, sometime in February. Spent a lot of time on the plans for this. We want to make sure that these things were also done properly. It's easier to get it done now than, afterwards, oh, we should have done this. But, so Meeting House Gatehouse is the gatehouse at Meeting House Reservoir, which is the terminal, the last reservoir before the regional plant. That gatehouse is 130, 140 years old. It has traveling screens in there, and they've been replaced a couple times. But it's at a point now where we can't just replace those traveling screens. There's a channel that comes into the gatehouse. We need to basically isolate that channel, bypass pump that gatehouse, because we got to still have water to the city, and then repair that channel, reinforce everything there, in addition to doing the gatehouse. But everything from the bottom of the reservoir, bottom of that channel up, needs to be redone. So it's a pretty big project, and it's costly because we have to pump water from that reservoir there's a place to pump into the main, because they've done it before, into the transmission main, but we've got to pump during the whole duration of this project as everything's, sandbagged and, dry, pumped out, so they can actually work on all this stuff. So it's on DEP's list, part of our consent order. So it's something that, they're telling us we need to do, but we also need to have done. We actually just had another issue there this past weekend, just with cold air getting in there. We had a power outage up there. We couldn't maintain heat in the building during this. And then we thought something had froze up, but come to find out, we actually had a power surge into there that damaged a pump that pumps water in the traveling screen. So we are addressing that, but the new gatehouse is going to have a generator that runs off propane, because we just have power outages up in Westminster there. Pretty much any significant storm, there's a power outage up there. So, and it just gets to be too much of a battle. We have a portable generator we bring up there, but it doesn't suffice. It just doesn't kick over. We need something that automatically kicks over, especially when you have those snow squalls we had the other night, and that wind just blew, over there, and just really cooled down that building without sufficient heat in it. So, so we're addressing all of that, making sure that cannot happen again. So it'll reduce maintenance quite a bit too, because we had to have guys stay overnight, 2 nights up there. Kind of like the old days when they used to keep fires going in them. You got to realize all these gatehouses, every reservoir, there was people running those things. You had fires going all day long. But that's why they had 100 and something people working for the water department. But yeah, so we had to have people stay overnight and make sure that everything stayed operating correctly with the traveling screen. So. But this project will insulate the building better, repair the building, put a new roof on it, do the channel over, brand new traveling screens, state-of-the-art ones. The ones we have now are probably 30 years old, and just basically reinforce everything and have that standby generator. In addition to that, we also have Mare Meadow Reservoir, which is toward Hubbardston down that's South Street, right? That's our largest reservoir and actually our best reservoir. There's a pump station there that has 3 pumps, a 300 horsepower, 100 horsepower, and a 40 horsepower. We never use the 300 because it takes too much electricity, and it doesn't really pump that much more water because of the size of the line. So we're basically using the 100 most of the time. So, but that facility is from the 50s, and I mean, if you go in there, it is the 50s. I mean, it's been reliable. We've kind of had a couple electrical issues that we've had to have repaired, but it's time that absolutely needs to be done. So that's part of this project too. So to completely do that rebuilding, put in new pumps with variable frequency drives, make sure that, the building's properly insulated. Right now, it's just brick without much insulation, new roof, all of that. So, to make sure that facility, is good for, 20 years plus. We'll have more efficient pumps that run off variable frequency drives, so we should have some savings in electricity too, rather than just the on-off. So that'll help it a bit too. So not going to necessarily offset the whole project, but it will. We're also designing the pumps so Right now, that dumps out into Meeting House Reservoir, and I didn't want to go too far with the project. I would have loved to bypass Meeting House Reservoir with a pipeline so we could pump directly to the regional, but it's too big of a project. However, we're designing the pumps to supply the whole city, and with the River Frequent Drive, we don't have to run at that high of a flow rate, but it would also have the ability, if we ever did have a problem at Meeting House, that we could bypass it and extend that pipeline down. So we want to make sure that everything's sized and designed so that could happen one day, if something happened. I mean, right now we're vulnerable at both reservoirs, an oil spill or something like that from a truck overturning. So it's it's always in the back of our mind that something like that happened. Actually, a couple of winters ago, an oil trunk went off the road by Mare Meadow, but luckily it didn't have any spillage. It went off the road right into the woods right near by the reservoir. So, but nothing was discharged from the truck. So that's the project. The original price that we put into the capital improvement plan for all that, and it also includes a new roof at our Bickford pump station, was $3.6 million. We added the generator at Meeting House because of the power outages and some other things with work with the channel, so it's actually a bit higher. It's probably about $4 million, but we also added in just another $400,000 just in case something comes up, so we don't have to come back to borrow that amount. We'll only borrow exactly what we need for the project, and we've done that in the past, and afterwards we rescind the loan order. So, but of course, construction prices are up, and like I said, we did add the generator at Meeting House and a couple other things, just to make sure that we're doing this work now. It's only going to cost more down the road, and make sure that facility we don't have to worry about anymore. So. So basically, I'm looking tonight. I had asked that the commission vote to approve it, and then we have to go to city council to get it approved, of course. We'll make a presentation there, and then I'll be working to go out to bid pretty soon with it.
So the motion we're looking for is to recommend to the city council to approve borrowing $4.4 million for this project?
Yes.
Great. Anybody want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
We have a second on the motion. Any discussion?
I just want to add to that. So we also submitted the project to the state revolving fund.
Excellent. Yeah.
In an attempt to try to get an SRF low-interest loan with principal forgiveness. And the way they fund those projects, they've got a pot of money, and they rank the projects from most attractive to least attractive based on a set of criteria that includes, socioeconomic factors and a few other things. So we ranked kind of middle of the pack, and basically they authorize funding for those projects till they get through their pot of money, and then everything else just gets cut off and doesn't receive funding. And this is the second year in a row we were just below that cutoff line, so we're not eligible to receive that SRF funding. So in order for us to move forward with this, we have to borrow the money, and we're not eligible to borrow it through that SRF program unless we delay it another year, reapply to the program, and then hope that we make the cut line. But because it's kind of off in that part of town towards Westminster, it's outside of the environmental justice area, and there's a few other things that make it a little bit less attractive. And it all depends on what projects up at the top of that ranking actually get funded. So last year, for example, Springfield had a major treatment project that took up $20 million or something like that.
I think it was even more like $100 million or something.
Yeah, whatever the number was, it sucked up a huge amount of that pot of funding. And the same thing happened this year. I don't recall exactly which project it was, but a couple of those ones right at the top were very large. So unfortunately, we can't take advantage of the SRF loans like we are on the combined sewer separation projects. But we did pursue that to try to reduce costs as much as possible.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I did mean to mention that, but we try to reduce the cost as much as possible. Getting those SRF funds would have, minimized our lessened our borrowing costs. But we can't wait another year. This needs to be done, and it's just going to get more expensive too. But we can't because of the age and because of the consent order and things like that. So we really need to go ahead with it now and not and what we're seeing, at least that I saw in the list that was approval, is all PFAS related treatments. Communities that have high levels of PFAS, have designs for treatment improvements, and they're getting funded, and that's eating up an awful lot. It's changed the whole picture as far as SRF drinking water funds, because that was not, we would have been funded if it wasn't for this PFAS thing that's come up. That's a lot of the treatment. I bet you 80% of the projects above us were treatment related to PFAS, and I actually talked to DEP about it, and they said that, they can't, there's communities with high levels of PFAS, and they need to make sure that those projects are funded and get done in order to protect, the people there. So, and I asked about, the future, if we did, they said they probably, because it is so many coming up with PFAS treatment, that it probably, it's a likelihood it wouldn't get funded afterward, next year either, so. But like I said, we did apply. I want people to know that we did our very best. This isn't the first time; it's the second time that we're out of that, below the level, and we just barely missed it too. There's the line. They actually literally have a line above and below, and we're 2 or 3 projects below this year, and as well as last year. But like I said, with the consent order and also our desire to just get this thing done, so we don't have an issue that where we don't have water at the regional plant, which would be very costly. Something with the wall falls in and the traveling screens and blocks them. I mean, we're, SOL, so we really need to get it done. So.
And that is on the administrative consent order from DEP, which we've extended out.
Yeah.
At this point, probably a couple of years already to try to get.
And they've been pretty good about it, knowing that we were trying to get funding and we've been working on the design, but it just, just can't go any further.
Right.
Further discussion? Mike, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. The 4.4, was that in a budget we've already approved?
It's in the, as far as not our annual budget, but it was programmed in to the rate study and what our rates would cover as far as borrowing.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So it's not in our last budget approval process, it's going to be...
It's in it per se because the loan payments are covered. We'll have another rate increase July 1st or June 1st. So, as we, incur these loans, this won't even hit, our loan payments won't even hit till a year and a half from now, probably. So the revenue that we get will cover the loan payments on this 4.4 million, so.
What about, if I recall, at our last budget process, we typically had, what, 1 or 2 million in a rainy day fund, but that seemed to be continuing to dwindle.
Yeah, it should be going up, and we actually, we did pretty well at the end of this last fiscal year. I haven't got the what do you call it? Free cash, not our, what do they call it?
The free cash certifications. Retained earnings.
Yeah, we actually put a lot back into it, so we probably got about $1 million in there, I would say, or pretty close to that. So, but yes, it was going down, and they wanted to see us get it up a bit, which we should have some rainy day, in the event of something.
Definitely. I would think everybody would agree
So
with
we're
that,
not,
right?
we're not touching that. It's going to slowly go up. But if it gets to the point where it's like, hey, we got plenty in there, we can use this to, do a project instead of borrowing. But
Or not have a rate increase.
yeah, or that too, which Mark used, to reduce the rate increase on wastewater. They, they tapped in some of their funds that had built up in there. So,
Okay.
But yeah, but this is, we'll have loan payments on this. It won't hit probably till, we're in FY 24, 25, FY 26 will probably be when it starts. So, and by that time, with the rates and other loans that are, the next meeting I'll bring together our loan, all our loans and stuff, and I have those for you to show you where we're at. So, but yeah, that was all figured into, the rates, so.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Further discussion? If not, I'll take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
That all you have,
And that's
John?
all I have.
Okay, thank you, John. Mark, what do you have?
Wastewater division, the other end of the city's water supply system. A few bullet points. The first one was an SSO event we had at Birch Brook on October 30th. This is our first meeting since then. That's why I'm reporting it here. And it was a significant event that did cost a little bit of money. On October 30th, the sewer system manager responded to a call from a resident regarding an odor issue at 148 Haywood Street. The odor source was determined to be coming from the brook behind his house, which was noticeably discolored and gray. So they followed the brook upstream, and an SSO source was just discovered to be a raised manhole with about a 1-foot hole in its chimney. It was releasing about 1,000 gallons a minute of sewage, that was estimated to be surcharging into the brook. We contacted the DEP, the EPA, Fitchburg and Leominster's health departments, and they were all notified. Then the sewer collection crew attempted to locate the blockage, and so we tried to run a camera as far as we could, but due to the access issues, because we had to go through some properties, and the potential necessity of 1,400 feet of bypass pumping, we had to call in an outside contractor. So Blue Diamond came to our assistance, and they helped us resolve this issue. The DEP required us to conduct daily water testings of the brook at 4 locations, 1 upstream and 3 of them downstream. And once the temporary access road was built, we had to obtain emergency access through someone's property, and that was obtained at 200 Haywood Street. And once the temporary access road was built, the sewer was bypassed by Blue Diamond, and then the collection crew was able to jet and clear the blockage and allow for flow. We then called in National Water Main to try to locate what caused the blockage. And so 13.5 feet downstream of the manhole, a rock was found protruding from the top portion of a pipe, and that's what initially caused it. Blue Diamond set up a pump to bypass the sewer, and they separately to bypass the brook to go around the sewer repair, and then the repairs were completed by November 7th of 2023. The Conservation Commission conducted a site assessment on December 12th, and the total cost for this project was about $240,000. And then they're going to reassess it in the springtime, the site, to make sure that the site repairs held through the winter months.
How do rocks typically get in
Just wear and tear. It could have been an old pipe.
water system?
Yeah. I don't think they determined how it came through. That's
Yeah,
the same area where we had that big flood in July. So it could have been from the excessive flow going through that area. It could have just, caused undue pressure in that area.
Chances are that when the pipe was installed, the rock was backfilled on top of the pipe, but it didn't quite break it. And then over time, the pipe slowly cracked around the rock, and the rock fell down through.
Interesting.
Any other questions on this?
Rocky story.
More questions?
My next item is a NEPDES permit. Like John, we've been waiting for our NEPDES permit. We've been operating under our permit from 2010. It was a 5-year permit. It expired in 2015. It's when we reapplied, and we just got our draft permit back in December, on December 15th. And we have until January 28th to have public comments on it. We have one of our engineering firms, Weston & Sampson. They're evaluating the permit and coming up with responses to it. Some of the changes that we have noted, the town of Westminster has been added as a co-permittee for our wastewater sewer system. One of the big items is a lowering of our phosphorus limit. Right now, we have a consent decree limit of 0.5 milligrams per liter. They want to lower it down to 0.16. That's a concern of us. If we had to go that low, we're talking about further construction at the treatment plant, building a possible tertiary treatment. So this is an item that we're looking at to see if we can delay until after all the CSO projects are done. We'd rather spend the money separating the sewer system, and prevent the water coming down to the treatment plant than try to spend money now. We don't even know what the flows are going to be like, when all these projects are done. Hopefully they come.
Is there a state level?
What's that?
Is there a state minimum or acceptable
It depends
level or
on, every
federal?
treatment plant has its own specific limit based on what they're discharging into. Ours is very similar to Leominster's because they're very close to us.
Yep.
But if you had a smaller stream, a lot smaller than the Nashua River, then our limits would be more strict. So ones that discharge right into the Merrimack or higher, Deer Island, I don't even think has one because they discharge right into the ocean. So there's no limit for phosphorus. That's our big concern. They add more testing, ammonia, nitrogen, nitrates, fluorine, and of course they're going to throw PFAS at us. So we have to start monitoring for PFAS. And it's going to be including our influent, the contributing stream that we dump into, and it's also going to include any SIUs, any significant industrial users that we have, like the landfill, any paper mills that are still discharging into us, and they're expanding PFAS into car washes, airports, and any other known expected sources. So any of these areas that discharge into our sewer system, we now have to put in our IPP program. This may be very costly because these PFAS tests are not cheap, and there's quite a bit of testing for each site. So we're trying to find out how we're going to pay for this when the time comes for us to actually conduct it.
How frequently are they going to ask you to do that?
Quarterly.
Quarterly?
Yep.
So Mark, I just wanted to point out, so the airport is going to require testing for their
No.
wastewater discharge?
It depends on what portion of the airport goes to the treatment plant. If it's just the administration building, possibly not. But if it had any type of, like the hangars, anywhere, they're concerned with airports is the firefighting, foam and anything else that they use to fight fires. That's how airports got on the list.
Okay.
Same thing with car washes, is the waxes they use. All that wax most likely it's loaded with PFAS. Okay. So it's all going to come down to us.
They clean so well nowadays, though.
Yeah, it does a good job. One thing we're looking at is, do we pass on the costs of the tests onto the industrial users, or do we absorb it within our budget? That's something we're going to study, look at, and present to the commission in the future about the best way we need to handle this. Also, we need to develop adaptation plans for the sewer system and the treatment facility that relate to climate change issues. So it's quite entailed. So that's our NEPDES permit. Most other stuff has remained the same, but those are the highlighted big items that are going to affect us. Once the public comment period is over, we don't know when they're going to actually issue the final draft. It could take time. I think Leominster's their draft was back in June or May, and I don't think they received their permanent one yet. So something we're going to have to possibly handle next fiscal year. So we're looking at that when we do our budget.
We are being crushed under regulations. It's just, everything you turn around, it's something else or something else they're looking at.
Yeah, PFAS is developing into a major headache for us. You know, when it comes to sludge, some communities are limiting where you can bring your sludge. You know, because if it's PFAS contaminated, a lot of people don't want it. So it could branch into something. We'll see. Any questions on NEPDES?
When you say a public hearing, where is that? When is?
Well, they posted it in the
Federal Register.
Yeah, the Federal Register, because I've had a lot of contacts from engineering firms looking to see if I need their assistance. So it's out there. I don't know if there's actually been any public comments or not. They don't tell you. But it gives us till February 28th to make our public comments and our challenges to the issues. So we're hoping that they continue the consent decree limit. But when we inquired about that, their words were, it's not unusual to revisit the consent decree when a new permit is issued, meaning they could add or subtract things. So they could remove a lot of the stuff we already had accomplished, which would be nice, but they could change things also. We don't know.
And just to clarify, I think so it's open for public comment. I don't think there's a specific hearing for that matter.
Okay.
On its own, but I believe the public comment is through DEP's website.
Yep.
Not 100% sure on that, though.
Yeah.
They had a public comment period for our permit too, and because it wasn't just Fitchburg, we were thrown in with a bunch of other water treatment plants that have the same discharge, so our comments didn't help at all, but maybe yours may have better.
I hope so.
Better luck, but here's a bit different situation, but we were in the same thing because of our receiving waters, similar to Mark's, we had very strict standards, stricter than most other plants. We're at the lowest level, so sounds like you are too.
Yeah, we have good relationships with the EPA and the DEP right now. Because of the work that they've seen us do with the consent decree and all the benefits and the proactive stuff that we've done, they're very happy with what we're doing. If they can see a way of helping us, I hope they do that, by putting the lower limit for phosphorus to the end of our consent decree, help us focus on the CSOs instead. That would be the best for us. If we have to do tertiary, that number was factored in our sewer rate study, so we're prepared for it in case. We just don't want to do it at this time. Any more questions on it? Just a brief update on CSO 10. CSO 10 was ongoing and on schedule. Polito has ceased winter operations. They did that on December 14th or 15th. And they're going to resume when the weather improves this spring. And the final completion for this project is due in December of this year. My next item is staffing. Good news. I mean, I know I hate coming in here all the time complaining about nobody applying for jobs. Well, we seem to have some candidates. So we had two positions, a GIS engineer, who we've interviewed, and he is going through his physical process right now. And we also had a senior wastewater treatment plant operator apply, which was very good news because they're very rare right now. He was interviewed last week. We made recommendations. We're waiting for HR to do their job and what they do, and we're hoping to see benefit from that shortly. So that would help greatly with the overtime that we have down in the wastewater treatment plant. Leading into that is I have a short video. It's a 9-minute video that it's by a group called the Excel Education Conservation Corps. It's a very good video. It describes what one company is doing to train the future environmental workers, water and wastewater. They're located in Boston. They come out to our treatment plant quite regularly for training. They take a tour of the plant. So in this video, you'll actually see our plant, the City of Fitchburg's plant, being utilized. It's a very positive, uplifting video. I thought it would be very beneficial for us to see. And it shows us what's going on out there and how some communities are making proactive steps to help find the next generation of wastewater operators.
Very good.
Don came to me, he was like, well, Aaron, have you ever heard about the wastewater operator? I said, no, I have no idea what a wastewater operator does.
My dad, he literally came to me one day with a piece of paper, was like, son, skate this. And I scanned it, and he was like, fill it out. And I filled it out, and here I am.
This is a field I've never even thought of. I think most of us don't. Water goes down the drain at home, and we don't think about where that water goes or how it gets cleaned.
A lot of people look at dirty jobs, and what they see is like, well, ew, it's disgusting. And what I see is like, he's probably got really good job security.
The Conservation Corps, they know from week one, this is the career we're aiming at, and this is how you're getting there.
For more than 20 years, Boston-based nonprofit Excel Education has been helping adult students get their high school degrees. Recently, Excel has added a new course.
So basically, this is where it all begins. Comes in underground, underneath where we're standing, into this building here.
It's an intense education program that gets members employed in the wastewater industry. The Excel Conservation Corps.
Send that guy down to the bottom.
Today, many young adults are stuck. They're in their 20s and 30s and they're not going anywhere with their life economically. That's scary.
We have one guy, 18, right, just graduated high school. We have a mother who was working at the Dollar Tree as a cashier. And then, right, we have people who are living in sober houses, right? They know that they don't want to get a second job at Dunkin's, right? Because they're tired of working at Panera. They're coming to us and they're saying, if I do this, if I do 10 weeks with you, all right, and then I do the internship here, am I gonna get this job?
Excel sees wastewater as a path forward for their members and an opportunity for a career.
To become a wastewater operator in Massachusetts, you do need a wastewater license, but you don't need a college degree. The pay started at $20 an hour and up, with lots of opportunities for moving up the ladder. And there are very few people of color and almost no women. And so that also was something we were looking at, is can we get into a field where we can help diversify the workforce and bring some equity?
Break everything off.
And so Excel provides the specific training their members need to get certified.
Screw press. Up and landfill.
Municipal collection system or sanitary are the ones that take the wastewater, like I said, from your house, the dirty water from your house to the wastewater plant. The wastewater classes are not super easy. It's like taking a college class. You have to put a lot of time in to study the material. Now the opposite of that, there's a number of steps that dirty wastewater from all of our houses goes through at a wastewater treatment plant to get clean enough that it can be then discharged into a natural body of water like a river or the ocean. They put it in, but it's not all the way clean.
We have here again something called a hydraulic load rate. Is a formula to calculate how much water you should be expecting to come into your facility.
You know what sludge is supposed to look like. You know what pumps are supposed to sound like.
So I need that the formula is total flow applied over the area square feet.
Those are your notebooks, my papers.
And then after the class lesson, we always have a weekly test to make sure that whatever we learned in class that week or the week before, we still got it. That we was paying attention.
We require them not to just pass the class with a passing grade, which is like 70 at most places. We require them to have an 80. And so it's not just, okay, I can get past it, it's that I know it, and I know how to troubleshoot it.
You have your GSI system out in the world filtering out stormwater. And then you guys have kind of your own built systems that is treating the other part of our like wastewater issues.
Would be affected by heat.
So from the very beginning, green infrastructure has been a really big piece of what we train. With climate change, green infrastructure is more important than ever.
Our activity called Watershed in a Box, and it basically just shows us how pollution can enter the river or the ocean and how pervious surfaces can help manage some of that issue.
Climate change is bringing more intense storms and increased rainfall, which can overwhelm our sewer systems and flood our neighborhoods. Often the best way to handle this is to incorporate rain gardens, trees, wetlands, and new drainage techniques into the landscape. This is green infrastructure.
And we have no background in these fields, so we partnered with local environmental groups that focus on these areas.
Our goal today is to teach you guys a little bit more about green stormwater infrastructure and show you how we maintain them.
We have these work projects like every Thursday where we go out and get like, really hands-on.
The day we was doing green infrastructure, they showed us how to grow trees, they showed us the different plant life that was supposed to be there to help the rain garden. And they showed us how we removed what wasn't supposed to be there.
This is a whole new area for our young adults. Our young adults have never spent much time outside of Boston or urban areas, have never thought about water quality or how to assess that water quality, and this is really an eye-opening experience for them.
When they're there, they don't want to get dirty, or they don't want to get wet, right? This last work project, you see this one guy, he was a little skittish, right? He was like, oh, he like had that jumping at everything, you know what I mean? We need them to be able to be somebody that, no matter what the job calls for, they're professional and they're ready to get it done.
You see this one? As wastewater operators, green infrastructure is like our best friend because the better the green infrastructure people are able to do their jobs, the less influence that we have to deal with.
Alright, who has done any sort of water quality training before?
We imagine that down the road, there will be more jobs created that involve installation or maintenance of green infrastructure that could be tied to a wastewater operator job.
I think you should leave it in there.
By us giving this exposure and training to our core members, they'll be in a position that down the road they can move into a position like that and give more responsibility.
At the end of the 10 weeks, Excel members take the state licensing test to become wastewater operators.
I am super duper excited. Like every moment where I'm not at work, I've been studying.
In my mind, I'm just like, I just hope I don't miss this formula. Like I have a whole bunch of formulas that I'm redoing in my head. Like remember this, remember that.
Okay. All right. Good luck.
Thank you.
Sometimes you see individuals who, when they first came in, they didn't believe that this was something that they could attain, right? And then by the end of it, they not only obtained their level 3 license, but obtained their level 5.
We're now at the point where we have employers literally calling us once a month with job openings that they're having trouble filling and asking us if we have any graduates with a wastewater license ready to work.
Wow.
Alright.
Yeah.
It passed.
Yeah. I'm tired. I'm happy.
So that's a good program that one organization has decided to take the ball and help train future operators. I mean, when I heard about them and they came down to the treatment plant, you know, I wish I had that attitude with most of my guys down there. It's a positive group of people who are just looking to make, you know, be good wastewater operators. So it was a good thing to have. I'm promoting as much as I can. It's on the city's wastewater website also, this video. So we're hoping something like that around here could be developed. You know, it would be very helpful.
Is that something like Monty Tech or something like that?
Monty Tech, I think the closest tech school that does something similar would be Minuteman Tech. I do believe they have a similar, it's part of the student course, and I think they take OSHA. They receive a wastewater license and a water license and a wastewater license upon graduation. So there are some schools that are doing it. I don't think Monty Tech. It'd be nice if Monty Tech did it, but it's where we are right now.
Thanks for showing us that.
Yeah.
Good.
And that's all I have.
Is there any other business?
Approve the minutes from last month.
Oh, sorry, thank you. The minutes were sent out. We forgot to approve them. Does anybody have any changes or additions to the minutes? If not, I'll accept the motion to approve.
Make that motion.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries.
And we do have one opening on the commission, and if anybody out there is interested.
Yes, that would be nice to fill our quota.
Yeah.
Okay, that concludes our agenda for the meeting. The next meeting will be Wednesday, February 21st, here at 5 o'clock. And if Not, if there's no other business, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned. Thank you.